Materialism and Spiritualism. The Third Testament. Revelations of Jesus Christ. Chapter 47. The repercussions of the present materialism. Thus saith the Lord. Truly, I tell you, that many will flee from my doctrine for fear of spiritualizing themselves. But it shall be neither reason nor the Spirit that speaks in them, but the low passions of the material. The Spirit, when it lives adhering to truth, flees from materialism like someone fleeing from a plague. The elevated spirit finds happiness only in what is moral, where peace exists and love dwells. Analyze my word until you are certain of its purity and its truth. Only in that way will you be able to remain strong and firm when confronting materialistic ideas which threaten the spirit. For materialism is death, it is darkness, it is a prison and poison to the spirit. Never exchange the light and the freedom of your spirit for earthly bread or miserly material possessions. Truly, I say to you, that whoever trusts in my law and perseveres in faith to the end will never lack material nourishment. And during the moments of communication with my spirit, you will always receive the bread of eternal life through my infinite charity. Materialism interposes itself as an immense obstacle in the road of the spirit's evolution. Mankind has halted before that wall. You find yourself in a world in which man has managed to develop his understanding as applied to material science, but remains clumsy in his reasoning about the spiritual. His knowledge of all but the strictly material is underdeveloped. The trials that the world is passing through are the signs of the end of an era. They are the twilight, the final agony of the era of materialism. Because there has been materialism in your science, your ambitions, and in your affections. There has been materialism in your worship to me, and in all your works. The love of the world, the greed for the land, the desires of the flesh, the satisfaction of all the lower desires, the selfishness, the love of self, and the pride were the force with which you created a life according to your intelligence and your human will, and whose fruits I have allowed you to gather, so that your experience would be absolute. And yet, if this era that now ends is noted in the history of mankind for its materialism, truly I tell you that the new time shall be distinguished by its spirituality. For in it will be the conscience and the will of the Spirit, that on the earth construct a world of beings elevated by love. A life in which the vibration of the Spirit of the Father is felt in the spirits of His children, because all the gifts and powers that today live hidden in your being shall have a place to develop. Infinity. The essence of Spiritualism. Spiritualism is not a mixture of religions. It is a doctrine that is purest and most perfect in its simplicity. The light of God descending to the human spirit in this third era. The revelation that speaks to you about the life of the Spirit, that teaches you to communicate directly with your Divine Father, and that helps you to evolve spiritually, I call Spiritualism. Truly, I tell you, that spiritualism is not something new that pertains to this period. It is a revelation that has gradually unfolded according to the spiritual evolution of humanity. I am giving you a doctrine of spiritualism that teaches you how to love God and your brethren in a perfect manner. It also offers you the path that leads to spiritual perfection. The law of God in the first era and the teachings of Christ in the second era also taught you about spiritualism. Spiritualism is not a religion. It is the same doctrine that in the body of Jesus I came to pour out over the world for the orientation of all men in all times. It is my doctrine of love, justice, understanding, and forgiveness. Due to your spiritual, material, and intellectual evolution, I have spoken to you with greater clarity in this, the third era. Spiritualism comes to destroy the customs and traditions imposed by men that have held back the spirit. Spiritualism is the evolution and incessant elevation of the spirit, which, through its gifts and attributes, purifies and perfects itself until it comes to its creator. Spiritualism shows the way how the spirit expresses, feels, and receives its Lord. Spiritualism frees and develops the spirit. The spiritual is the universal strength and light that is in and of all. My teachings shall be strange to no one. The attributes of the Spirit are immutable because they are the virtues of my divinity. They are eternal forces. Understand, however, you will be able to show greater or lesser purity according to how you have lived. Who can justly call themselves spiritualized? He who has reached some degree of spiritualism through his perseverance, evolution, and a love for the lessons of the Father is a spiritualist, even if his own lips do not say so. He who has faith and elevation in his actions must reflect that which is in his spirit. The spiritualized know that the omnipotent is in all, that the world, the universe, and the infinite are saturated with my essence and my presence. He who conceives of me and recognizes me in this way is a living temple of God and will no longer materialize the manifestations of the Spirit with symbols or forms. Spiritualism is the revelation that uncovers and points out all that you bear inside. It makes you recognize that you are a work of God, that you are not mere matter, that there is something above the flesh that elevates you above the nature that covers you, and above the foulness of your passions. When men arrive at spirituality, every precept and every maxim form part of the light of conscience. Even though their memory retains not a single phrase or a single word of my teaching, they bear its essence in their beings, for they have understood it, felt it, and practiced it. The good spiritualist shall be he who in the midst of a poverty of material goods feels like a lord, rich and happy, knowing that the Father loves him, that he has brothers whom he may love, and that the riches of the world are unimportant compared to the riches of the Spirit. He also shall be a good spiritualist who, being owner of material wealth, knows how to use it to good ends, taking it as the means that God has given him to perform an important mission on earth. It is not indispensable to be poor, a pariah, or miserable to be counted among those who follow me, just as it is also unnecessary to be of those who weep to be loved by me. Truly, I tell you, I have always wished you to be strong, healthy, and the owners of all I created for you. When will you know yourselves as the beneficiaries of your inheritance, knowing how to appreciate each grace and giving it its proper place in life? Spiritualism in religions and confessions. Today, men live in an age of confusion because they have not yet come to understand that all of their lives and struggles should lead them to the development of the Spirit, whose goal must be the communication of the Spirit with the Creator. The worship that most men of today profess is that of materialism. While the doctrines and religions persist in their differences, the world continues to foster hatred and cannot take the decisive step to true worship. But when will men understand and unite, taking thereby the decisive first step toward the love of one another, given that there are still men who believe they possess the key, or the secret, to the salvation of the Spirit and the keys to eternal life? and who disown all those who go by other paths, because in their judgment they are unworthy to come before God? Understand then the true purpose of spiritualism, whose doctrine is above all religion, all human ideas, and all sects. Spiritualism is not a new doctrine come to achieve the evolution of the beliefs of the past eras. No, it is the same revelation as in the first era and second era. It is the basis of all religions, of which in these moments of divisiveness I have come to remind all humanity, so that they do not forget their beginnings. The works of men, their customs and ways of impressing the senses, to flatter and exalt themselves in their various religions, are contrary to what my work comes to show the world. During this time, I come to give you new teachings, in which you should meditate. Lessons of love, which will redeem and elevate you. Truth, which even though bitter, will be enlightenment along your path. Spirituality of this period, like Christianity of the past era, will be contested and pursued with anger, cruelty, and fury. And in the middle of the struggle, the spiritual will emerge, working miracles and winning hearts. Materialism, egotism, pride, and worldly love will be the forces which will arise against this revelation, which is not new or different from the one that I brought you in the past times. The doctrine which I have come to reveal to you now, and to which you give the name spirituality, is the essence of the law and the doctrine which were revealed to you in the first and second eras. When mankind understands the truth of this teaching, its justice and the infinite knowledge that it reveals, they will reject from their heart all fear, all prejudice, and they will adopt it as a norm of their life. Truly, I tell you, that the spiritualists, men prepared to contribute to the peace of humanity, are scattered all over the world. Still, I tell you, the union between the spiritualists from all over the globe shall not be brought about by the organization of a new church, because their strength shall not be material. Their union shall be of thought, of ideals, and of works, and in this way their strength shall be invincible, for it will have been taken from the eternal source, which is my spirit. I am inspiring my truth and touching all, so that all the impurities that must not be mixed with my light are removed from their hearts and their understanding. All have the duty to permit that, through their gifts, the spiritualist doctrine be clarified and defined, taking care that it is not contaminated by human philosophies. Truly, I say to you, that in the history of humanity will be the history of spirituality, written with shining letters. Was not Israel immortalized after liberating themselves from their bondage in Egypt? Were not the Christians immortalized in their conquest through love? So will the followers of spirituality be immortalized in their struggle for the freedom of the spirit.